0 minutes, 0 seconds. There are 25 granite containers weighing 100 tons each under the sands of Egypt. 0 minutes, 7 seconds. No engineer in the world can explain how they were made. 0 minutes, 12 seconds. In India, there is an iron column that has not rusted for 16 centuries, 016, although modern steel is given up over the years, 021. In Iraq, they found a battery assembled in 2,000 years before Walter introduced its own, 028. These objects do not fit into textbooks, 031, because the textbooks were written by people who did not see them, 036. Today, we will analyze 7 real ancient finds, 040, each of which looks as if it was forgotten by travelers from the future, 046. And let's start with the most difficult riddle in the literal sense of the word. 051. All 7 items can be touched by hand. Each is stored in a real museum, 056, and each breaks the usual picture of the past. 101. Egypt, Saqqara, 1850 AD. 107. French archaeologist Auguste Mariette noticed a stone sphinx, 111, protruding from the sand to the northwest from the Pyramid of Djoser. 116. Having excavated an entire alley of such sphinxes, 119, he realized that they lead to the entrance to an underground structure. 124. When his team broke in, they had to use dynamite, 128, because the passages were sealed tightly. 132. Behind the stone walls, a labyrinth of long tunnels, 135, cut out directly in the limestone, opened. 139. In the largest gallery on both sides of the corridor, 143, there were 25 giant boxes of black and pink granite. 149. Each box is 4 meters long, 2.5 wide, 3.3 high. 159. And the total mass of the container is approaching 100 tons. 202. This is the weight of a fully loaded railway car. 205. Hidden in a tight underground niche. 210. When Marriott opened one of the boxes with an explosive, 213, there was nothing inside except emptiness and smooth walls. 219. Official science calls this place Serapeum, 222, and claims that the sacred bulls of Apis were buried here, 227. The problem is that in no open box, 230, were found any remains of bulls or traces of mummification, 234. But they found something more terrible than mummies, 237. Inhuman stone processing accuracy, 240. Engineer Christopher Dunn, 242, who worked for 49 years in high-tech production, 246, measured the inner surfaces of 2 boxes. 252. He used an industrial caliber with a tolerance of 0.002 inches. 258. The walls turned out to be flat to the level, 3, that can only be achieved on software-controlled machines. 305. The angles are kept exactly at 90 degrees, 308, and the radius in the corners is only 4 millimeters, 313. When Dunn turned to an American company, 315, with a request to repeat such a box of a whole piece of granite, 319, he was answered directly, 322. Even with an unlimited budget, 324, it would have to be assembled from 6 separate plates, 328. And the ancient masters cut out each container, 331, from a single monolith, 333, mined in Aswan, 334, 800 kilometers from Saqqara, 338. The rock of most of the boxes, 339, has a hardness of 6.5 on the Mohs scale, 342, and some are made of diorite, 345, which is even harder, 347. The tunnels are so narrow, 348, that 2 people can barely fit in them, 351. As if 100-ton blocks were spread out, 354, on the straight corners of the corridors, 355, and lowered into niches with a gap of 40 centimeters, 359. Science is silent. 403. There is simply nowhere to place levers or a team of workers. 406. And the ancient Egyptians officially did not have hydraulics. 412. One unfinished box is still standing in the middle of the tunnel. 416, as if the builders threw it halfway. 418, and left forever. 421. Roughly scratched hieroglyphs. 423. On the outer walls. 424. Contrast sharply with the mirror polish inside. 429. As if the inscriptions were made by completely different people. 432. Thousands of years after the creation of the containers themselves. 438. If you now feel that ordinary channels, 441, tell the story too flatly. 444, subscribe. 445. Here we dig where the textbooks end. 449. What do you think? 449. Why do you need surgical accuracy for a bull's coffin? 453. Write your opinion in the comments. 456. Let's move from the underground galleries of Egypt, 459, to the seabed of the Mediterranean Sea. 502. In 1901, 504, Greek divers got caught in a storm. 507, near the island of Antikythera. 512. The captain sent a diver to the bottom. 514, so as not to waste time. 516. And he dived in panic. 518. He shouted about dead bodies at a depth of 60 meters. 522. The captain went down himself. 524. And saw not the cemetery. 526. But the remains of an ancient Roman ship. 529. Which sank around 85 BC. 533. The dead bodies turned out to be marble statues. 536. Lying in the sand for 2 millennia. 541. An inconspicuous piece of greenish bronze. 545. For 2 years, it was dusting in the drawers. 547. Of the National Museum in Athens. 549. Until the politician Spiridon Stairs, 551, noticed a crack. 555. A gear sparkled inside. 556, small, perfectly cut. 559. The object was more than 2,000 years old. 602. Newspapers wrote about the sensation. 605. Skeptics shouted about the fake. 607. But the X-ray tomography of the 2000s, 609, put everything in place. 614. Inside, a system of 37 bronze gears was hidden. 618, the largest with a diameter of 13 centimeters. 621, with 223 teeth. 624. A device the size of a laptop. 626, calculated the position of the Sun. 628, the Moon, and 5 planets. 630. It predicted solar and lunar eclipses. 634, tracked the cycles of the Olympic Games. 636, and showed the phases of the Moon. 640. The accuracy of calculations of European science, 642, was achieved only after 1,500 years. 645. The mechanism considered that the Moon accelerates, 648, and slows down in different areas, 650, of the elliptical orbit. 654. For this, there were 2 gears inside, 657, planted with a displaced axis. 659. In fact, a differential. 702. The very node that allows the wheels of your car, 705, to spin at different speeds on the turn. 710. The teeth of each wheel are accurately cut. 713. Inaccessible to a manual file. 715. Triangular teeth are the same as stamped. 720. The inscriptions on the rear panel, 722, recently read thanks to tomography. 724, turned out to be detailed instructions on operation. 729. The lost arrows of the front panel, 731, carried colored balls. 733, fiery.
Red for Mars, 735. Golden for the Sun, 737. Researchers from the University College of London, 740. Called the original a creation of genius, 743. Combining Babylonian astronomy, 745, and the mathematics of the Plato Academy, 748. Whoever assembled this device, 750. He understood the space at the level, 752, to which the rest of humanity, 754, would reach in another 20 centuries, 758. The Roman orator Cicero, 8, described a similar device, 803, created by Archimedes, 805, in Syracuse in the 1st century BC, 807. So, the Antikythera mechanism, 809, was not the only one. 810. It belonged to a whole tradition, 812, from which only one copy, 817. The Greeks packed the sky, 818, in a bronze box, 820, and the Indian blacksmiths, 821, about the same time, 823, cut the iron. 826. In the courtyard of the Kufat-ul-Islam Mosque, 829, there is a column, 831, 7 meters 20 centimeters high, 833, and weighs more than 6 tons. 837. The inscription in Sanskrit, 839, connects it with the King Chandragupta, 841, the second of the Gupta dynasty, 843, the 4th century of our era, 847. The 16th century column, 848, stands under the open sky, 850, under the monsoon rains, 851, and scorching heat, 853, and there is almost no rust on it. 856. Ordinary iron in the Delian climate, 859, is covered with crust, 9 o'clock, for several years, 901, and the Eiffel Tower, 902, is repainted every 7 years, 905. In the 18th century, 906, a cannon core got into the column, 909, but it withstood, 910, leaving only a dent, 911, at a height of 4 meters, 914. The riddle was tried to solve, 916, since 1912, 919, when the British chemists, 920, took samples for the first time. 922. The answer appeared in 1991. 926, when Professor Balakrishnaman, 927, from the Technological Institute, 929, in Kanpur, 930, published a study. 932, his team used. 934, X-ray diffraction. 936, electrochemical tests. 937, and microscopy. 938, to finally understand. 940, what is happening. 941, on the surface of the metal. 943, column iron contains. 944, about 1% phosphorus. 946, and there is almost no sulfur. 948, and magnesium in it. 950, this compound starts. 952, the formation of a layer. 953, of crystalline iron phosphate. 955, with a thickness of 1.2 millimeters. 958, this layer works. 10, as an invisible shield. 1001, that heals cracks. 1003, during each cycle of soaking. 1005, and drying. 1007. In fact, ancient blacksmiths, 1009, created a natural analog, 1011, of stainless steel. 1012, 15 centuries before the invention. 1014, of stainless steel. 1015, they used blacksmith welding. 1018, heating and forging. 1020, the iron, so as to preserve phosphorus. 1022, without devices and without textbooks. 1026, modern metallurgy. 1027, has still not reproduced. 1029, the exact combination. 1030, of the composition. 1031, and strength of this column. 1036, 6 tons of iron without a single gram of paint. 1038, stand under the open sky, 1040, and win the battle, 1042. That our entire industry, 1045. And from some country, 1047. Write in the comments, 1048. It is interesting to know, 1049, where they are watching us from, 1052. The Indians conquered iron, 1054. And the Romans in the 4th century, 1055, conquered light, 1057. In the British Museum, 1059. Behind the armored glass, 11. There is a cup of Lycurgus, 1102. The only whole sample, 1103. Of dichroic glass of antiquity, 1107. If the light falls from the front, 1109. The cup is green as nephrite, 1111. And if it passes through the wall, 1113. From behind, 1114. It flashes ruby red, 1117. A scene from a myth, 1119. The king of Lycurgus is entangled, 1120. In grapevines, 1122. And the god Dionysus, 1123. Watches his death, 1127. The carving is made in the technique, 1128, of a cell cup, 1130. When the glass is cast with a thick block, 1132. And then cut to the open lattice, 1136. But the focus with the change of color, 1138, is not hidden in the carving, 1140, but in the very structure of the glass, 1143. The solution came in the 90s, 1145, when the fragments of a similar 1147 Roman glass were examined, 1148, under an electronic microscope, 1153. Particles of gold and silver, 1155, about 50 nanometers in size, 1158, 1,000 times less, 1159, than a grain of salt, 1201. When the light touches, 1203. These inclusions, 1204. Metal electrons begin to oscillate, 1206, and change the wavelength, 1209. Silver is responsible, 1210, for the green color in the reflection, 1212. And gold is responsible, 1213, for the red in the light, 1216. This effect is called 1218, plasmon resonance, 1219, and today it is used 1221 in sensors and holographic technologies, 1224. Roman masters ground gold, 1226, and silver to invisible particles, 1228, and melted them into glass, 1230, in a ratio of